Oh, thank you for watching. I'm John Jannarone, editor-in-chief of IPO Edge. I'm here with Bill Toler, who is the CEO of Hydrofarm. We are on the sidelines of the ICR Conference in Orlando, Florida. Bill, it's good to see you again. It's been a few years.
John. Yes, absolutely.
Bill, before we talk about Hydrofarm, I'd really like to touch on your experience at Hostess, which I think was an incredible turnaround story under your guidance as CEO. After that, you decided to move on to Hydrofarm. Just tell me a little bit about that transition after bringing Hostess back to life and then moving on to Hydrofarm.
Yeah, sure. Hostess was a fantastic American success story, right? And it really speaks to the quality of the brand and what a brand means to American consumers. When I was CEO of Hostess from 2014 to March of 2018, everybody I'd run into and talk about the brand, they would tell me their favorite product, their favorite story, and how they became their favorite product. And it was always, almost always, about what mom, had put in the lunchbox or what grandma introduced to them when they went over to see grandma. And it just really spoke to the depth and history of brands and the power of brands, especially for American consumers. So that was a lot of fun. We brought that public via SPAC mechanism and did really well. And then I'd actually retired from industry in 2018, and the call to lead Hydrofarm came along late 18, early 19, and I joined actually 4 years ago yesterday. So that's quite a fun journey so far.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah,
well, let's talk about Hydrofarm, which is a producer of hydroponic equipment. So you like to call these the picks and shovels for this industry, and a lot of it is cannabis. Can you explain in your own words a little better than I can?
Yeah, sure. It is the picks and shovels play in the controlled environment agricultural industry, which in many ways is cannabis, right? Now we sell into food and floral, we sell into vertical farming, we sell into lawn and garden, we sell our peat products into other channels as well, like mushroom farmers and other things. But fundamentally, the company has been defined around indoor growing, and it's really the lighting, the supplies, and the grow media, and the nutrients, the air and water handling systems, and all the various things that any grower needs to grow, whether it's cannabis or flowers or food or any of those areas. So that's the nature of the business. But as you mentioned, we don't touch the plant, we don't grow anything, but we are a supplier to the industry of growers. And we do that primarily through a retail network. We sell to retail stores, people like Grow Generation, people like Hydrofarm Holdings, people like Grow Green in Michigan, all the great retail partners we have across the country.
Great. And now there's been a little bit of a supply-demand imbalance in the cannabis world. Can you explain to me what happened there? And as I understand, there's some different theories about what happened with it, but it seems to me that there was just too much being grown. Explain to me what you think.
Exactly, John. What happened was we had the uniqueness of the COVID bubble, where basically during early days of COVID, everybody went home and stayed home for quite a while. Consuming cannabis is actually an at-home behavior more so than it is when you're outside the home. And so growers then got ahead of themselves and said, we're going to keep growing as if people are always going to be at home. And so the growth got way ahead of the capability for people to consume it. Couple that with the 4 stimulus checks that went out to people during, the government support programs. Couple that with some rapid expansion in very large states like Oklahoma and Michigan. And what you had was way too much growth for a certain level of demand. And that's caused an incredible slowdown now in 2022, which is what's challenged the industry over the last 12 to 15 months.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. So what's your prediction on how things are going to play out from here? What's going to cause to more of a balance to be restored between demand and supply? I mean, certainly you could have legalization in more states, which I think a lot of us are expecting.
We are expecting that. And one of the things that's forgotten about in our industry now is that still less than 50% of the population can buy cannabis legally for recreational purposes in their state. And so that number is going to continue to grow to a point where it's pretty much going to be 100% over the next, call it 5 or 10 years. So getting that rolling out and getting that balance back really is about the product that's been grown being consumed, and people start to replant and regrow. What happens there is when the inventory comes down, which it is coming down, pricing then stabilizes. And as pricing rises, more people come back in the category to grow and to ultimately sell, both through dispensaries and sell as a hobbyist or consume as a hobbyist as well.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, Bill, I understand that you have taken some steps to rein in some costs while you're weathering the storm. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, my management team is a very experienced industry team inside of the hydroponic industry and also inside of consumer products. And we know that the best way to get through a storm is to really kind of batten down the hatches, right? So we've cut our costs. We've had to take out almost 30% of the people in the company. We've taken SG&A down. We've cut down outside services. We've taken our DCs and turned them into from cost centers into revenue centers, where we've become a 3PL provider to other companies and to other industries so that we can support the DC space that we built for the growth that we know eventually will come in this space. So it's just good blocking and tackling. It's good management that anybody would do that they're running the company. And so we're trying to do that to help us get through this. And we're getting through it very well. Our balance sheet is strong. Got about $20 million in cash at the end of Q3. We've got an undrawn revolver of somewhere between 75 and $100 million, depending on the time period you look at. It's a function of our inventory. And really what it speaks to is that we're managing the controllables that are in front of us. We're controlling the controllables while we're, waiting for demand to come back. While we're waiting for that demand to come back, we're also pivoting into other areas that I mentioned, into CEA food, into lawn and garden, into the mushroom farmers through our Aurora peat business, and further into international.
Great. Just getting back to this legalization point if we can for a moment, how important is federal legalization? Does that need to happen, or can states just kind of do it gradually on their own?
No, I think that sort of the cat is out of the bag in a sense that state legalization is probably going to be, or states' rights is probably going to be how this category rolls out. And so there's so many, we're kind of at 19 or 20 states now. So to go back and have an overarching federal legalization is probably not where we're headed here. And so I think that that plan works well for us. But the states just need to get on with it, right? Even the ones that have legalized are choppy in the execution, inconsistent in the execution, and frankly need to go ahead and step up and get people growing and let people enjoy the category.
Now, what about the competitive landscape? Just tell me who your competitors are out there. I mean, we don't have to name them, of course, but
Sure.
Could some of them fall off the map? And do you expect to see fewer rivals?
Yeah, there are two or three sort of scale competitors in the space. Really, there's two, us and one other in the hydroponic primary space. Then there's a handful of lawn and garden guys who really are in one part of our business, but not in our full part of the business. One thing about our category is because of all the growth and success over the last 10, 15, 20 years, there's developed a lot of brands. And so there's probably too many brands out there. And we think that the category will kind of self-rationalize and clean up some of the clutter that's there. And every brand has its own point of difference, but every brand's got to stand on its own to be able to be successful and to stay in the category. And so we think that you're going to see some fallout of brands. You're going to see SKU reduction and brand reduction. We took out over 20% of our brands out of our portfolio in terms of people's brands that we distribute for, not our own brands. And we have to do that to stay viable and to stay strong. And we're doing that. We've taken out over 60% of the SKUs that we used to offer. We've reduced out of our warehouses today. So it's going to be a simpler, cleaner lineup that we're going to bring forward to our customer base.
Do you think that one solution to this for the industry as a whole could be consolidation? Could, some of these companies merge and, reduce cost if they have, centralized overhead, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think there will be some consolidation in the industry. I think that the industry would be better off if we had fewer players supplying more goods to them. We think because of our history with 46 years in this industry now, that's a pretty amazing history. We grew up with the industry. We think that our unique role in that space gives us a great place to be that leader among the team.
Great. All right, Bill, we're just about out of time here. So I want to just put it back to you. We're 2 weeks into the new year. You just had your anniversary. What are you most excited about in 2023?
I'm excited about going forward with normalization, stabilization, return to growth in the industry, having the cost structure right, and being really ready to kind of get back to the good old days of making money, growing the business, and having a little fun while we do it.
All right. Well, that sounds good to me. Bill, thanks for joining us. It's good to see you again.
Great
Thanks so
you.
much.
Take care.
You too.